And we're back with another episode of Franchise My Business, the podcast for franchisors, hosted by franchisors. I'm your host, Kevin Oldham, and we are going to talk about two of my favorite business topics, recurring revenue and franchises. And we're going to smash the two together. I've been talking about these topics since like 2015 or 16, basically since the founding of our company. We actually wrote a blog article probably back in 2016. That's one of our top blogs that talks about the 8 reasons that your business needs recurring revenue. And I love recurring revenue. Recurring for me is code for predictable. And as a business leader, I like predictable revenue, and I think that most business leaders would enjoy predictable revenue. And if you're a franchisor by nature, you have recurring revenue built into your business because you get royalties. Royalties are recurring, and it's really makes it very, very fun to manage your business, because a business that has lumpy revenue cycles is not fun to manage. I've managed both, and frankly, we have majority of our revenue within my marketing company is recurring. The majority of our revenue within our franchise system is not recurring. Like, people come in and we don't necessarily know when they're going to come in, and we can deal with some seasonality. We can deal with some lumpiness from day to day, and it does make it a little bit more challenging to manage the business. So we're going to talk about, as a franchisor or as a prospective franchisee, things that I think that are valuable to consider building into your model, or seeking out if you're a Z thinking about investing in a franchise. And that is a business, the actual franchise, that has a recurring revenue component associated with it. So if you're not familiar with recurring revenue, we're just talking about subscriptions. We're talking about hitting somebody's credit card or whatever it is on a certain, predetermined basis. Typically it's monthly. I like monthly recurring revenue businesses. And these look like a lot of things that you and I are very familiar with. They look like gyms, maybe like yoga studios, lawn care. Lawn care is actually an awesome one. Pest control, anything that's happening monthly, quarterly, and you sign an agreement with your customer, and then you just show up or you deliver the services or goods on an annualized basis, and probably monthly or quarterly, and you just get paid for it, right? So that is, if you're building your franchise. If you're building your franchise system, if you're somebody who's thinking about going from one to one to one to many, you're at that decision point, I would challenge you to figure out a way that you can incorporate recurring revenue into the business model, because it's going to make it easier to sell your franchises. If I were looking at 2 different franchise opportunities and the CapEx is the same, like everything's the same, and one business is just kind of transactional and doesn't have any predictability, and the other one has recurring revenue, I'm probably going to choose the recurring revenue aspect. Okay. And it's hard. Like, for some people, like a lot of food service, it's challenging. I've seen Panera, for example, try to build a recurring revenue component associated with their business related to their coffee. Who else have I seen in food service? I mean, it's a little bit more challenging in food service. It really is. We've wrestled at the Smoothie Shop and Supplements with, hey, do we create a smoothie club for our frequent flyers, people that are coming in sometimes multiple times a day? And you've just got to be, food service has variables. The cost of food fluctuates wildly. And you've got to just make sure that your unit economics make sense, and that, if you roll out maybe a VIP program or something like that, that the value delivered to the customer is, or the perceived value is higher than what they're paying, and that it makes sense for you. And that's not always an easy thing to do when you have variable costs and a variety of other factors that sometimes you can't control. The most valuable opportunities, frankly, are the ones that are recurring revenue. So, a lot of times when you're thinking about buying a business, you're not thinking about selling it, or when you're building a business, you're not thinking about selling it, unless you're me. And I've always thinking, hey, let's build it so that somebody else could take this over. I actually think that a lot of people think about building it to sell because it doesn't mean you're going to sell it. It just means that you're building things in a way that they can operate without you, or somebody else could be put into a seat and then the business could run and it's not dependent upon one person. And those types of businesses tend to be more valuable to people. If they're not centered on lumpy deal flow or a certain individual, it means that somebody else can come in and there's predictability, and people will pay, a higher multiple for that type of predictability in terms of a cash flow stream. So if you're thinking about going from one-to-one to one-to-many, you're thinking about franchising, try to determine how you can build a recurring revenue component into the business if you haven't already done so, or if it's not inherently part of your business model already. And when you're thinking about acquiring a franchise, I don't want you to discount the ones that don't have monthly recurring revenue. I think first and foremost, it makes sense that you invest in a franchise that you care about, that you're going to dedicate your energy to, your capital to. Like, it has to be in alignment with you as a person, as an entrepreneur, with your business values and all of those things. But I will tell you that, monthly recurring revenue does help manage cash flow, and cash flow is, one of the king drivers to a business, to a thriving business, to a successful business. So just think about, if you're building your franchise, is there a way we can structure a recurring revenue into it? And if you're looking at investing in a franchise, maybe give those that have monthly recurring revenue or quarterly recurring revenue another, closer glance, because they're just going to be a little bit more fun to operate. I mean, frankly, they just are. And then when you go to exit that business at some point in time, or pass it on to your kids, or whatever you decide to do with it, it's going to make it more valuable for them, and as well as more fun for them to operate as well. So that's it. This is 4th of July weekend. So no guests. We're going to just keep rocking and rolling. And I hope that you all have a phenomenal week. Be well. And until next time, I'm your host, Kevin Oldham, and I just have one ask. And that is, if you like what we're doing here, I'd love a review. See ya.